I was gonna do some Kingdom Hearts videos, and I just thought about it. I'm like thinking, you know what? I should talk about it because me and my friend Rin were just had a short conversation about this whole thing because um, he was telling me, don't worry about it. They'll just pay the authors that left Marvel, just give them what they want, and the rest is history. And I mean, granted, at one hand, I mean, everything got worked out if you look at it one hand, but also it could be a goddamn nightmare. And I did talk about it a little bit of it in my last video about it. And I'm just thinking, you know what? Why don't we do it? Why don't we go fucking do it? DC did it, and it worked pretty fucking good. I mean, you could bitch and moan about the fucking changes. I could give a fuck. Um, I thought it was brilliant on the New 52, but I think personally they should reboot their universe. I really feel so. Just please listen to me and just hear me out. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong because I don't see how can I be wrong on this. I don't see how I could be flat out wrong on this whole thing because honestly, I really just don't see how. Um, you know, I look at it like this: if the comics are rebooted, therefore you don't have to have a rinse and repeat cycle every 2 decades. I personally believe that you could do so much to a character until it gets a boring thing. Gee, that sounds like fucking what DC and Marvel has done over the years. You could do so much in comics and movies and TV shows to such a degree that it just gets boring. And that's the problem. That's the problem that I see a lot in DC Comics and Marvel Comics. I say to my friend, and also tell you about this as well, how many times do we have to keep on doing the same old shit before we just do the same old crap over and over and over and over and over again? And I tend to wonder if we should do the whole thing of let's reboot Marvel Comics and just start from scratch. Because I look at it at one hand, I'm like, okay, we can't keep on just like having Peter be single every few other decades. We just can't do that. We can't keep on having where, oh, Peter's with Mary Jane. We can't do this. We can't do that over and over again. And I think that if you rebooted your universe and you go forward and you start from scratch, it would be a really cool direction because you would have a lot of creative freedom and a lot of interesting directions that you couldn't have done in the original continuity. And I felt like that was one of the things that I loved about DC in the New 52. It felt a lot of times different. It felt its own identity. It felt like, wow, this is great. This is awesome. This is interesting. What happened to that? Oh, wait, I know what happened. Bullshit happened. But I mean, granted, you could complain. You could say, oh, it will ruin the Marvel universe and this and that. I disagree. And if they ever did the MCU comics, I think it would be really cool because you would also explain the whole thing of why Peter doesn't talk about Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben was that whole factor of, okay, if he was not there for Peter, therefore it would explain that, okay, he's wasn't there for him. Now, granted, it would piss off a lot of those minority fans that just say, "Oh, you ruined Spider-Man. You ruined Uncle Ben should be Peter's influence." Yeah. Sure he was. I tend to just laugh every time I hear that. I tend to laugh a lot of times people on just like now they want Uncle Ben back after so many years. They got tired of it and bitch and moan about it. I mean, like, it's just, I guess maybe it's like we had so many years without him. I mean, people like to have a throwback. But I mean, I just feel like for me, the two options is do MCU comics and go forward with that direction, or just fucking cut your losses and just reboot the series and just complete start all over. And I feel like you would do so much things in this own universe, because if you have your own identity, if you have your own universe, therefore you don't have to just do many do what's that word? Too many stories that just feel like I seen this already. I seen this already. I seen this already. But at the downside, you will have those minority fans that just miss the older continuity, miss the stuff that they love, but don't understand this had to happen because of X, Y, and Z. And that's the one big problem that was the downfall of the New 52. People were so hooked on what they love and what they really liked about that character. And if you strip that down, you completely change that character and people will dislike it. I personally felt like, gee, if that was your main complaint, then get out of here, because you're not a big comic book fan. You're a guy that only likes a specific style on a character, and it's boring. I like specific styles on every other character. Like for me, I like Peter and Gwen Stacy. I like the basic to where Peter was with Gwen Stacy and it fit that character. What happened? She got killed because the editor-in-chief of Marvel wanted to have a redhead, or had a thing with redheads. Therefore, they went to Mary Jane later on. And also, another thing is they had bullshit directions because they wanted to have Peter Parker being single. Another thing happened. We had Peter make a deal with the devil. The worst, dumbest storyline ever made. Why would you do such a thing? Just have them get a divorce. Have it where Mary Jane tells Peter, I can't do this with you, Peter. I just can't. And you could have that direction, realistic direction. But no. We like to put a fuck you to every Spider-Man fan. We did it once. We did it twice now. Granted, now it's a meme to where it's such a degree that I'm just like, I laugh my ass off. I laugh my ass off so many times. Just like, oh yeah. Look, remember that one time when Peter and Mary Jane had to fucking make a deal with the devil, and therefore Mephisto says, I want your love, your marriage. And you could pretty much change that to where I want your suffering. I want your love with that character because I'm taking away from you because I want to fucking give a fuck you. oh man, I tend to laugh. But yeah, I mean, I personally believe they should. Now, granted, which directions they could do the direction of option A, completely reboot the universe and just start from scratch. Or they can just do a MCU direction where they explain what happened to certain characters or shit like that. Perfect example, Star Wars, Predator, and Alien. They're doing books about them that are canon into the films. Therefore, you're going to have this stuff somewhat be mentioned or shown, and it will explain a few things. What was going on Captain America? What happened after the events of his first film before he joined the Avengers? What happened after the first Avengers film and then before the events of the Age of Ultron, and so on and so forth? You would have a lot of breathing room. You would have a lot of breathing room of pretty much explaining a lot of shit. That stuff would be great. And ever since we're doing the multiverse, you could put the Sam Raimi trilogy there. You could put the Andrew Garfield into the Marvel cinematic universe, because therefore you have where, okay, we're going to do other Spider-Man characters that are from the multiverse. You go forward, you expand about this stuff, because let's all face facts. No one's going to do movies about them in the comics. And I mean the comics. No one cares about the comics characters. They care about the character. They just don't give a shit about his books. That's the main thing. Yes, I and you and everyone else like it, but the minority that only cares about the MCU or only cares about that specific character, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or whatever, it's going to be the main thing. I look at IDW. They're going to do their own shit in Transformers. They're not talking about the G1 shit and pretty much do their own thing. They're going to talk about Transformers, the brand, and everything else. I see something similar on that direction, or similar on what they're doing with Star Wars, or Star Wars and Alien and Predator. They're going to do shit like that, so therefore it would be benefit for them. And I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised next year they're going to reboot it. I just feel like that's inevitable. Marvel has tried so hard because they looked at DC and they're too afraid. And I'm just like, look, guys, if you want to get out of this hole, you're going to have to do something. Now, granted, Disney could probably do loopholes to get around it, but I look at it like, you have to make something worth the shit. And the only thing that I personally feel would be the only direction is reboot your continuity. I'm going to say this, Tevia, if you're watching this, and you're saying, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I'm like, Tevia, I'm going to say this right now. What happens in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? They break up Mary Jane and Peter Parker again. How many times do you need to do that? You don't. I'm a little scared shitless if they're going to fucking dethrone Thor, not having him become king, because you did it once, you'll probably do it again. And that's the big scary part. I always say to all the writers who do Thor, please, 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 for the love of God, don't have Thor drop the throne. Don't. Just don't. There are so many stories you could do with that character as a king, and have it where, what does he do? Does he save Asgard and their problems? Or does he go to Earth and help the Avengers and everyone else stopping a major threat? That stuff is great. That stuff is awesome. And what they're doing now may not be my liking a few times, but yet again, I'm okay with it because it's pushing a different direction and they're going through him as a king. And that is something that I always wanted to see in the comics, fully diving in. And the problem is that that's the main thing. Iron Man is Iron Man, Tevia. I mean, but it's just like, oh yeah. I that's the one thing I do want to see. But it's just like, it's just the fact is, I really want things to go to a certain way. And I'm always scared for the future. And I just look at it like this. I'm like, it's probably best for us getting this direction. And I'm being real. I don't like talking about this stuff, but it's either we do a new continuity and start all over again, or we do MCU comics that are canon to the MCU. But we'll see how things go. But anyway, I just had to do a quick video. Kingdom Hearts videos are coming, along with Infamous First Light is coming as well. And I'm just saying, this is probably going to be the inevitable. Either option A, they start all over and they just do a whole new universe and they go forward, or they just do a new direction that's basically MCU comics that explain each of the films. I mean, you could use your own storylines, and personally, at this point, I mean, Marvel Studios doesn't really need the comics. They don't need the comics. The comics are just a marketing tool. They're just there. Same thing with the Star Wars. Star Wars doesn't need books and novels, but they do it because it's there. The brand is there. So, yeah. Anyway, but we'll see how things go. Reboot. Yeah, reboot or MCU comics. Yeah, exactly. Option A, do a whole new universe in Marvel, or option B, completely MCU comics. Yeah, that's just how it's gonna go. And you know, that's yeah, more. It could be. Or like, who gives a shit about Hickman? As far as I'm concerned, that guy could go fuck off because that guy could really, really hurt the X-Men, in my opinion. I mean, I really just, he really hurt the X-Men brand. It kind of reminds me of what I hate about what Marvel did to Iron Man's books. And when you change, yeah. Here he is, written. The MCU comics would mean what? Yeah, exactly. Like they're doing with Star Wars. Each comic, like the first Darth Vader comic, it was after the first Star Wars film, and then the second comic was after Revenge of the Sith, and probably the fourth or fifth is going to be after after the other films, and the rest is history from there. Oh yeah, hell yeah, baby, hell yeah, that's option. What about option 3? There is no option 3, damn it. Oh, and actually, no. If you want to go option 3, out of business, buddy. Out of business. Nothing is going to go down. That's your main option. You have your two options. Reboot your universe into a whole different take. Spider-Man is back to being a kid again. Everyone is pretty much back to square one. Captain Marvel is still Carol Danvers. I probably wouldn't mind if Kamala Khan stays as Miss Marvel. It's just you're going to have completely different origins. It wasn't. Yeah, but yet again, I mean, like, it didn't really care. The problem is you had the comics there. Here's the thing, Tevia. The MCU prequel comics, yeah, they were there, but they didn't really had a main thing. They didn't stick because they retconned it because they didn't have the license of sub-characters. That's the main thing, Tevia. You get what I mean? Oh, dude, yeah, exactly. But anyway, I mean, personally for me, like I said, like either option A, reboot your whole universe and start from scratch and just go forward, or option 2 is the MCU comics. And I mean MCU comics where it started to become a main push, like Star Wars, like Alien, like Predator, and shit like that is going to be your main source of comics. And it's just, I'm being real, like my friends just said. The MCU comics would mean what we see some of the characters were doing before the events or after the events of their movies. It would be a breath of fresh air. It would make the MCU or should I say the MCU multiverse, such greatness, because you would have it where you're investing more of your time with this brand and everything between. Or you could do the Power Rangers and the Transformers direction to where it's starting from scratch. They're going to do something new and different, and they really did something really interesting with the characters, and it's not going to be an nostalgia brand, and it's going to do something really great and awesome and shit like that. I mean, that stuff is really cool. That stuff is really awesome. And yeah, anyway, let's see what else. Oh yeah, exactly. And you could also explain it to where uh, the whole part where, and me and Ren talked about this, like you could explain Uncle Ben wasn't there for Peter as much, and he had responsibilities, and Peter was just a kid, and he probably got killed in the War Machine drones during Iron Man 2, and it probably affected Peter a lot to a certain degree, but it didn't affect him like he had with Tony Stark. Tony Stark was the one that gave him that positivity, that gave him that sense of hope, a sense of like escapism. And let's just say you grew up with your heroes, you eventually die like your heroes and shit like that. I mean, that's something that's very realistic, very much. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. The question, it wasn't some people wanting the Ultimate Universe. Wasn't, oh, okay. Question, weren't Peter. Yeah, but here's the thing, Tevia. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be real and I'm going to say this right now. The Ultimate Universe, at the time that they were killing Marvel in the whole golden age of the Ultimate Universe, yeah, that would have been a perfect timing. But over time, they kept it separate because Ultimatum. Ultimatum killed it. Yeah. The MCU is becoming a massive, great. Yeah, exactly. So, honestly, I mean, just do it. Pull the trigger. Or just do a new universe and just go forward from there. Take somewhat of the influence on the MCU and just go forward. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think they should do it. I think they should do it and they should go forward. But yeah, that's just how I feel. Anyway, guys, it's good talking to you all. And I mean, yeah, exactly. Ultimatum did killed it. And I seen a petition out there trying to revive the Ultimate Universe, and I'm like, no. If you're gonna revive the Ultimate Universe, start all over. Start from scratch. I don't want to see Miles up there and go back home. No, his home is in the main Marvel universe. The main Marvel universe. He really was the only shining soul in that godforsaken universe because that universe was dead. He was the only thing there. And therefore, Marvel realized, you know what? Fuck it. Why don't we get him into the main Marvel universe? I mean, we don't need this character just stuck by a dead universe that nobody gives a shit about. And that's just really sucks. I mean, I really just am being real. Oh, yeah. And here's the thing. If you get the MCU comics, the MCU. Yeah, exactly. Like the Star Wars fans, like the Alien and Predator comics fans are doing. Yeah, it would be a major fucking boost. It would be, and hell, I wouldn't be surprised that DC does the same. They push in more of their comics, and hell, you could have like 3 or 4 comics going in. You could have the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies going forward because now that's a part of the MCU because we're bringing the Sam Raimi villains into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're bringing the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man villains into this whole thing. We're bringing Venom into the MCU. I hear Venom just gets teleported like Loki did in that other alternate universe that he was with the Timekeepers. That shit like that would just be bringing all this crazy stuff. Therefore, people would be excited for many things to come and going forward. Yeah, and that would be great. But at one hand, you would have the minority audience that have read these characters through their lives before the MCU, and now they feel like, what happened to us? You guys pretty much didn't sold that very well, and 2, we had to adapt what happened next. So therefore, you would basically piss off a minority fans, kind of like with the Star Wars fans, and pretty much the rest is history from there. That just says a lot. That is just says a lot to everything. And I don't know what else I could say. I really don't know what else I could say. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep. And true, and heck, Nick Fury. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Everyone, Ultimate Universe, everybody. Uh, you would never do that. They would never do that. They would never, ever do that. Bendis already did Spider-Man 2. It already did. Yeah, true. Also, I don't like. Yeah, one of the reasons why I hated Rebirth, fucker. I'm sorry I had to say that, but I'm like, you're one of the reasons why I hate the yours truly, the trash Rebirth that pretty much was Excelsiorville. Gotta have that Excelsior shoved down your throat. Oh, and oh, by the way, Tevia, just being a little bit honest, you couldn't tell me I'm wrong on this. Ever since that whole Rebirth kind of goal started, where's your universe now? What happened to DC? Down to the shitville. So please, anyone that, if you're gonna hate on Rebirth, or not if you're gonna bring Rebirth in on hating on New 52, well, I'm gonna say this. Gee, your shit didn't go anywhere because it went down the toilet. It was a short-term solution. So please get that Rebirth out of my face. Expectation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm expecting it to be replacing because it makes sense. It makes sense to where, look at Star Wars. You couldn't tell me you could not do that with Marvel. You couldn't tell me you could not just do that into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just bring that into the comic form, have people buy it, have people reviewing it, going forward, explaining in between or what happened during the events of each specific character, what happened to Uncle Ben, what was going on with Tony Stark, what was going on with Thor before the events of the first Thor film or after the first Thor film or whatever happened, shit like that, and just go down every single one, and going forward where we do a Loki TV series that follows the events of the Loki show after season 1, before season 2, and just expand upon on the what if shows. You couldn't tell me you would not capitalize on that whole direction. Come on, man. It's just, that's the stuff I just look at, and I just feel like, when you look at the MCU and you look at everything, it's really becoming a mainstream. Hell, the video games have taken shit from the MCU. The Guardians of the Galaxy game, it's a straight knockoff of James Gunn's fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. Same thing with the Avengers game. A little bit of the Spider-Man game. Now, granted, I would love to see a Spider-Man comics on having where it. I would love to see a Spider-Man comic book series that's based on the video games of Spider-Man. Come on, tell me, Tevia, you would not, would you buy the Spider-Man comics that evolve around the Spider-Man character? That oh, fuck you. I can't even say it right. That evolve around. Tell me what you would not buy on the Spider-Man comics that revolve around the Sam Raimi trilogy, that revolve around the Spider-Man video game department, that revolve around the Amazing Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man, so many thing you would do, so many things, so many options, so many things you could go for. You have the option. We don't have, I'm going to say this right now. I'm sorry. I have my Venom run now. I got the Venom that I always wanted. A book about, one, you've seen Eddie Brock becoming a hero. That was Leaf the Protector. You have someone else taking the mantle of Venom for a short period of time. Then you give it back to Eddie Brock. And then after that, he got a son. He fought the most powerful symbiote god. He became a god. And then after that, his son's becoming the new Venom. And then after that, you could have his son pretty much do crazy shit and then end the book there, and the rest is history. I have the stuff I always wanted to see going forward. I know. But yet again, it is what it is. But it's just like that's the whole main thing. Would you or would you not get in on board with all this stuff that I just mentioned? Tell me yes or no. And that's what I say. Would you or would you not be invested into the Marvel multiverse cinematic universe on this whole thing? Because let's all face facts, the comics are never going to get movies on their own. They're only there for a brand. So I just see that only solution. Now, granted, they don't have to. They could just stood by and just keep on going, and the rest is history. But I'm looking at it in the long run, I'm like, okay, if this court case ever goes down, eventually Marvel is going to do what DC did. They're going to have to. It's not an option. So, anyway. So, Tevya, I know you hate New 52. I don't understand why. You still have the books, don't you? So please spare me of bullcrap and don't bring Rebirth in, because Rebirth is a pile of dog shit because it didn't do anything for DC. It just shit canned DC so much so that it pretty much just killed every little bit of what we loved about DC Comics. Complete total boring. Anyway, I'm just saying how I see it. And oh God, no. I can imagine Tevye's crying, how dare you ruin, how dare you shit on my little Rebirth. Or he's just laughing his head off. I'm like, dude, man, come on. Oh, that's a nice fucking Spider-Man in the picture. I gotta show this right now. But anyway, I mean, it's just like in your dream. Oh man, it's just in my dreams. I'm literally fucking loving the shit like this guy. Oh man, I love this picture. I must say right now, fuck it. He's a great. I love Spider-Man Noir. It's a great fucking character. Gonna review his books later on. But I mean, like, I'm just saying. I mean, Tevya, come on. Let's look at the options that we have, and not tell me you would not go down on this direction. Come on, it's the best option. And yet again, I mean, like I said this in that one video I did, and it would just be like everyone got pissed off at me. Everyone got pissed off at me because, how dare you say that? And I'm like, dude, it's gonna be the inevitable. I mean, like, granted, that was a piece of shit idiots that clearly didn't know anything what they were talking about, but it's just like the whole thing. I know what they're probably going to feel on everything once this is all done, if it ever goes through. I know exactly where they're probably going to feel. They're going to probably feel cheated. They're probably going to feel salty because everything they love, everything they liked is gone down the toilet just because they needed to they were getting sued, and the only way to keep the license of these characters was just straight out hardcore reboot. And it was the only thing. It was the only thing that kept them going. And, granted, I mean, like, it worked. It worked for DC. It will work for Marvel. I'm sorry, Tevya. You may hate New 52. It made DC better. I'm sorry. You could tell me, oh, it ruined X, Y, and Z. You still have those characters in the older comics. You still have those characters in the older books. You couldn't tell to me that I couldn't go back and read the Ultimate X-Men books or the older Iron Man books and not enjoy that and still read the newer books. You couldn't tell me I couldn't do that, because if that was the case, then I'm a fucking fake ass fan. Because if I can't just accept the one thing that I just have to accept the fact that maybe my shit ain't gonna be around the next 10 or 20 years. Look, I'm gonna say this right now. Mary Jane and Peter Parker are probably gonna get back together. But in the long run, are they gonna stay back together? 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? Are they gonna stay permanent? No. They're gonna do some bullshit up like they did with Gwen Stacy, like they did with Mary Jane, and they're gonna do it again. It's just, it's such cheap writing. And I just feel like at this point, does it really matter? Does it really matter that the 616 just absolutely just ends and pretty much no one gives a crap? No, they won't. They wouldn't care if they ended ended that whole universe, because at that point they would pretty much look at it like, okay, we got our universe that we like, and just the rest is history. The comic books are nothing more than guides. Why don't we have it where let's do what Marvel's doing with the whole factor of uh, the whole Star Wars and Marvel comics. My only hope that they stay together. Personally, yeah, I could agree, but yet again, I could say I would like to see Jane Foster and Thor get back together and have them become king and queen. Not gonna happen. So yeah, I mean, like, I'm just saying. And oh, by the way, I would like to have Iron Man face the Mandarin again. Not gonna happen. It's just not. But I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, and that's another thing too. I mean, the whole Ben Reilly situation. I was not on board with it. I was on board with if anyone else was going to take over, I was going to be on board with the whole factor of Peter pretty much just absolutely fucking, what was the one? Oh yeah, Peter was absolutely gonna be with someone else. I was on board with that direction, but they don't want to pull that trigger. So I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I'll say this. Yeah, they had an option to where they were gonna end the fucking he's still fighting him, and apparently he's gonna be coming out god, and you're gonna have a godlike battle. And I'm just like thinking, oh good, oh cool, seeing Iron Man become a god. So basically, say let's have Iron Man become Super Saiyan God versus whatever himself become a god as well, and you can have a battle of gods situation. Oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah, I wanted Miles to become your mainstream Spider-Man. I really did. I was not on board with the failed attempt to do Spider-Man. I mean, like, no, we did Ben Reilly already. We did him already. Do we really need to do that character again? No, I don't want it. I would rather just get rid of Ben Reilly, or just have him become a villain. And I know, Tevia, you're like, oh no, he was terrible. No, he was probably the best thing out of that whole thing. No way, he was awesome. He was great. He was better than half the shit that he was a hero. And also another thing is, it made sense. So I just I just feel that way. And you could tell me I'm wrong or whatever. I just feel this way. And I truly feel like, as much as I like to see this specific character or that specific character into the MCU, they're not going to do what I really want them to go. They're going to go for what they want to do, and that's really it. And that's just how it goes. It's just that things are. That's how it goes. And I wish that things were a lot different, and people like to do what they want to do, and people want to say, oh, Edgar doesn't understand this, or Edgar doesn't like this, or whatever. I mean, Yeah. I mean, personally, I like certain things in Marvel, but I'm being real and I'm saying, the best for Marvel is just start from scratch and just go work your way up, or buy have them go do the main Marvel universe, the main Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's it. Um, I know a lot of people would be very much different because they think that, hey, we got nothing wrong. There's X, Y, and Z character. I'm like, I get it. I get it why you feel that way. I get the fact that you think that this direction is better because there's nothing wrong with that specific brand or that specific character direction, and I understand that. I do too. Perfect example. Um, I love Transformers. And was I on board with the reboot of Transformers? Not really. I mean, I felt like the Transformers reboot, like, it didn't need to reboot itself. It could have gone more after the fact. It could have gone more of what they could have done after with that specific character. And if you read the Unicron trilogy and if you read uh, the whole factor of the Optimus Prime book and it ended the way it did, you would like to see what happens next. You would like to see what happens next on that direction. But they ended on a note where I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. This is awesome. This is amazing. Love to see where it leads. And, that this is the whole thing I loved about that whole Pacific book. And, it really is a really cool direction. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people are going to have their opinions. They're going to have their opinions because they think they know different. They know better. And, yeah, exactly. I mean, granted, if it was did it successful and they rebooted, and how would you? Oh, I would be more open for it. I'll be like, same thing on how I'm feeling right now. Be more open for it. I'd be like, okay, we had our fun. Let's go forward. Because at that point, I mean, at that point, I'm like, we did everything with that whole universe. Like, I still feel like, till this day, like, we did everything. Why are we so scared to do something that could be benefit for helping us? It needs to happen. It needs to happen. Sorry. Oh, that's a cool fucking homage, and I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if this happens. I gotta show you this. I found this on DeviantArt. I'm like, oh my god, no way. I gotta show you this. Right? That's the MCU Captain America, MCU Black Widow. Who's that right there? Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It's got the same outfit, got the same shit. I mean, shit for crying out loud. It's awesome. And I wouldn't be surprised we have this to be more common. Look at this. You would not like just this is one of my actually take that back. This is one of those reasons why I keep on saying, why not do this? Why not do this? Tell me you cannot see this in the Marvel now. Tell me. Just please, absolutely tell me I'm wrong. Oh yeah, I could absolutely agree. It felt like the end to a certain degree, and yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, they're gonna go where they're gonna go, and it's just like, um, I kind of look at it like this. I mean, if they're really that serious to do this, then they should do it. But I mean, I really believe that for the benefit on my heart, that they really should do um, MCU comics or completely inspired by MCU, but just completely different brand. You know what I'm saying? Um, but that's just how I feel, and I truly kind of believe that. I truly feel like that's the only way. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on a lot of things, but I mean, But it's just, yeah. But I mean, I yet again, like I said, I think Marvel is just very afraid, very afraid to reboot their universe because they feel like what DC did. Look what happened with DC. Everyone hated them. But yet again, let's say they do reboot their universe. Not a single word would be hating on people like us. I wouldn't be hating them. And I'm like, you know what? Great. That's awesome. Can't wait to buy it. Because at that point, I would be like, at this point now in Iron Man comics, I'm just grateful we're got the books that we have. I could go back and read the shit I could read. But at this point, I just feel like no matter what anyone else says, it's really done to death. And we need to just completely clean house. Just start all over, reboot your comics, reboot your shit, and just go forward. And either make a choice, make your own universe, and that's heavily inspired by MCU, or just completely dive into the MCU stuff and just go from there. And which I think it's more likely that they're going to do their own, or actually, no, they're going to do the MCU option. But yet again, it is what it is. What if proves that, oh, yeah, exactly what I was saying. Exactly. They don't need to go, they don't need comics. Yeah, exactly. I give DC credit when they rebooted their universe during Crisis. Yeah. I don't know about that one. Personally, I don't give a fuck about that specific era of DC because at that point I'm like, yeah, whatever, yeah. It's just like for me, I look at a lot of things and I just feel like it's just how I feel. And I could be very blunt and very somewhat a bit of like hostile to an extent on my passion about Marvel, but I mean, what I love about Marvel is I love about a lot of things with the characters they've done, the story driven shit, and there's so much things that I just automatically enjoy. I just automatically just really hate what they did. I really hate the fact that there's so many things that fans like me are just at this point, and I'm like, do we really need the comics? I mean, I don't feel like we do. I don't feel like we need those books. And like 616 says, the What If show just proves they don't need it. They really don't. To them, it's just whatever. And I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep on saying it until I die, because I'm like, they have either two options. They either option A, reboot their universe and make it MCU-esque direction, or B, hardcore MCU. That's what I'm looking at. And I think they're going to go hardcore MCU later next year. I truly believe that. Because if I was wrong, then honestly, I won't be surprised if they just absolutely just miss the bar and just completely just stop printing comic books. Because eventually they're going to have to make a choice. Like I've been proven right every single damn time with the whole factor of the theater aspect. Eventually, movie theaters are going to be the thing of the past. Eventually, movie theaters are going to have to go bye-bye because there's going to something that's going to be the mainstream the whole mainstream on streaming service. Sorry for keeping you guys a little waiting on something like that. Streaming service is killing the movie theaters. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can go to the movies and go forward and do whatever, but no one's really going to give a damn because the movie theaters are going to be a smaller thing. They're going to be like plays. Plays was a very common thing at one point, and eventually they're going to go bye-bye, and they become a very small minority area. And the same thing here. So I'm sorry if people feel differently but that's how I see it. And people have disagreements on certain things that I personally have difference on, like theaters or comics. I mean, I always look at comic books as, comic books are going to stick around, but they're going to adapt. They're either pretty much go digitally, which some of them are going for it, like DC. I'll give them credit on that. DC is going full blown credit on that direction. But I mean, when I look at DC, I look at it on a different direction. But it's just, I look at a very different direction, and I see a very much just either at one hand, it will bring a lot of great things, but also it would kill and hurt the comic book industry at the other. So it's like a lose-lose situation. But it's just like, I really feel like we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to force to adapt. And many fans are going to be either loving it or hating it every goddamn minute of it. And it's just going to be rough. It's just going to be rough. And, I'm trying to be a good team player to a lot of supporter comic books. I try to be a lot of good team player on a lot of things, but you try so hard and not say it because you're afraid things are going to change. Because if you do, you're going to have those situations be happening. And granted, I mean, mainstream is becoming more. Yeah, exactly. Mainstream is becoming more a main. Yeah, exactly. And you kind of said the things I was trying to get up to, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see how things go. But I mean, I just had to do this whole thing. Because I look at it like what I'm seeing right now with the Marvel stuff that's in this situation, and this is not what I wanted. I think Marvel is a company that should have comic books, but they're gonna have to reboot a few times. Like, and it's not just Marvel; it's everything. Like in whatchamacallit, the whole factor of DC. I feel like DC is going to have to reboot their universe, because I feel like now their universe is trash. It's trash. It's dog shit. Why would anyone be invested and forced on? Oh yeah, remember we rebooted our universe and we wanted to get rid of all the older comics and pretty much start from scratch? Yeah. We're backing out on that. We're going to pull all that shit back in. Okay, bye. That's how I went. But I mean, yeah. So adapt and survive success. That's exactly. I mean, oh, dude, I'm so looking forward to that entertainment. I'm gonna pull a can of soda and just like, I'm enjoying the fireworks. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it's either MCU Comics or fucking yours truly hardcore reboot, new universe, new everything. I'll be more into the whole new universe because I love Marvel. I love what they have. I love Kamala Khan. I love Miles. I love all that shit. But at a certain point, I feel like we just need to reboot this universe. I feel like it just stretched as best as possible on so many things, like X-Men. Really just absolutely changed completely. Nothing like the X-Men characters that I really want. At least with Bendis and before the Hickman stuff, it was still X-Men. It's just, I feel like the only thing that was missing was Jean Grey and Scott being a leader and all that stuff. And if you had all that shit there, then hey, we got no complaints. We got nothing. But I mean, it is what it is. Um, but anyway, the voice actor who did Nightwing favored my tweet of Gotham Knights. I want to show you guys right now. I want to show you guys. I just want to show you guys right now on this whole thing. Oh, fuck. This one. I told him I can't wait for the Gotham Knights game. It's going to be great. And he favored my tweet. Favored my tweet twice. Hold on. Where's my tweet? Where's my other tweet? Hold on. Did I? Oh, yeah, there it is. He was also in this show as well. And I favored both of my tweets. They're really great, really gracious enough that he did that. I mean, I also saw him in he did a voice in Star Wars, the other that sequel Star Wars show or something like that. Oh yeah, exactly. Watch the rise and fall of comic books. Empire tells how comic books could have been. Yeah, exactly. In the 80s and 90s. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. I mean, but yet again, I mean, wait. Oh yeah. That's awesome. My cat, my fan cat. That's true. Oh, you did too. Oh, you did to you too. Oh, that's awesome. It's good to see actors really and that's the one thing I love. Actors respects the fans, and that's something I always appreciate. I always appreciate actors and that really acknowledge the fans, and they really love them, and they really say, you know what, you're doing so much helping me out, and you're helping my career and all that stuff. That's really, it puts a really big love for me on the actor, because it could be Marvel, it could be DC, it could be Image, whichever. I mean, that's something that I truly love a lot. And, that's something that I always felt like, anyone else that disrespects the fans, really, you're just hurting yourself, really. I mean, that's something I just truly feel so heartily. And that's something I feel like, and goes the same thing with writers as well. Writers should be your main, let's say Bendis. I remember Bendis fairing my tweet and also responding a few Tumblr messages, and I remember I told him, "Are you going to do the Mandarin?" And he says, "I don't know, man. I don't know." He was trying to playing off on me. I mean, granted, I think if he had enough time, maybe he would have. But I mean, um, but it's just the fact is, I mean, when I look at a lot of things, it's just I really respect writers and actors that really just understand the comic book business, and it's something that I try so hard to wanting to achieve, because those things is one of the biggest directions that I want to go through. And it's just that it's very hard to get into it, to get noticed. And I wish there was another option. Maybe audition, maybe much like say, hey, here's my script, take a look at it, give me a one-shot comic. If it sells a lot of hotcakes on sales, on the artwork, or whatever, that's great. You're hired. That's something I always feel like that should happen in comic book industry. But yet again, I mean, I understand why they don't do it, because they want someone that's very competent. They want someone that's very much like, oh boy, I don't know, we should have hired. I don't know about this, because I feel like we made a mistake hiring this guy, and yeah, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to let that guy go because he fucked us up, and we have to clean his mess, or shit like that, to where it's like we have to make something up to further expand on that crap. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, it just is what it is. But yeah. Anyway, Ben is a hick is a Caribbean. Oh, yeah, but I mean, like, No, Bendis is nice. Yeah, he is. He is a very really good, cool guy to talk to, and as I've seen many interviews and all that shit, because I've seen many fans or even um, just overall interviews talking about things, and I always love to chat with him. That's a writer that I'm like, I would love to know your opinion on X, Y, and Z movies. I'd love to know your character, Miles Morales, that you were crucified when you created him, and now you're getting a movie. You're getting a movie, and you're seeing your character getting a video game. Man, you must be proud seeing your character live what you truly are. That is something. It is greatness writer. That is. I'll say this. Bendis is one of the greatest writers in today's comic books. Besides a few other writers in Marvel Comics, besides all the writers in Image or whatever, Bendis is what I like to be. That guy makes history, and I literally love everything about him. He made a risk. He took risk that he know he'll get crucified in the end, but he'll know that he'll be a star later on because that's his work, that's his character, just like Stan Lee. He knew exactly what he was getting himself into when he was creating Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, should I say not Captain America, fucking Hulk, and all these other characters, Spider-Man. And he took risk and he fucking stuck by it. He didn't back out on it. That's a really good, competent writer. That is something that I truly, truly feel. That is something that I feel like, a lot of people should be like that guy. A lot of people should be like that guy because that guy has balls. The only guy that I could think of that has that type of balls, that has ballsy moves, is Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron is absolutely perfection. Jason Aaron took risk. Jason Aaron takes risk on so many things, so many directions, so many things that are benefit for him. They're like, I know my book is going to sell because it's going to have movies and TV shows and games all about that. Look at what's happening. The guy is excited of his character, Jane Foster, getting his story being adapted into the MCU films. It is what it is. Yeah, exactly. A lot of companies. Exactly. Yeah, I know. That's totally true. That's so true. Man. But for me, that's the type of writer I want to be. And I'm working on the shit I do because, that's the guy that I personally feel like is going to do a lot of greatness. And, we'll see how things go forward. I know he's doing other books, but I'm going to be real. I'm saying this. His solo books on just independent stuff, it's fine. It's just, there's nothing worth a shit. Maybe he'll put out another book that's worth exciting for, but it's just, I don't know. Just don't really care. But it is what it is. But it's just, I look at a lot of things in Marvel. I look at a lot of things in DC, and DC speaks zero interest. I really want to just be real and just say I like stories that are very risky. I like companies like New 52 or the all new, all different Marvel era just absolutely took a risk and just say, fuck it, let's go all out on this direction. And see how it leads to. And it works. And X-23's Wolverine still. Fucking Miles Morales is canon to the MCU, canon to the Marvel universe. All this crazy, awesome, badass stuff. Jason Aaron. Oh yeah, Jason Aaron's amazing on his Avengers run. Oh god, I really need to review his book because I'll say this. His run has so many crazy things. I want to see that moment where Thor talks to his mother and have where, oh yeah, you're basically a mutant and half mutant, half Asgardian. Do you have abilities of your mutant powers, like the whole Phoenix Force. And imagine the Phoenix Force merges with Thor. Oh my god, dude. It would probably be even worse than fucking when he was cosmic. It would probably be so worse than what he was with the power cosmic, because he would be absolutely perfection. He would unleash his full power like a true Phoenix would. Oh god, that would just be so good. So good. I can imagine the armor. I can imagine the outfit. Oh man, it would just be so good. And just seeing him uses the hammer Mjolnir himself with the power of the Phoenix, will use around the thunder. Oh my god, dude! Oh, I can just imagine craziness. Oh, oh yeah, totally. Um, but yet again, I mean, but yet again, when they killed off Jean Grey, that was inevitable. I'll just say this: every time they kill off Jean Grey, Scott's never the same. Cyclops is never the same. It's almost like without Jean Grey, he's not the same character. You just can't do without him. Do that character without Jean Grey. Jean Grey is a part of Cyclops' story. It's just how it is. I mean, it is what it is on that. But anyway, I gotta get going. I gotta go do some Let's Plays and do some Kingdom Hearts videos. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'd love to know. Just tell me, everyone, just who are watching this video, and from beginning, middle, and end, please put your comment box down below. Do a video response. Share this subject. Would you rather take a reboot and it's pretty much like the Nifty 2? Or would you rather have the MCU direction to where it's very much similar direction with Marvel on terms of the Star Wars and Alien books, to where it's in between or after the films, and we go forward and we make event comic books around that center area? And I'll say this right now: Disney and Marvel Studios don't need the comics. They don't. They don't need them because they can make up their own shit. We're at a point to where the adaptation of a character is long gone. It's long gone. So at this point now, I'm just literally kind of begging that question. Should we just do a hardcore reboot and just start from scratch? Or MCU vibe? Just go for it with the MCU. It is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. At this MCU at this point, yeah, pretty much, or should I say, the MCU, the MC multiverse, because we're adding the multiverse and we're adding the Sam Raimi and different franchises from Marvel and all that stuff. And yeah, exactly. That's so cool. That's so true. Adaptions. What the fuck is that? Oh man, that's so cool. I mean, hell, I mean, I'm looking at DC and I'm like, DC is doing similar directions. For example, as well, just going forward, just even better. Injustice. Why is the comics so loved? It's a part of the games. It's canon. It's canon. It's before the events of the games. Therefore, people will read it and buy it and enjoy every bit of it. I'm going to have to go with my friend Rin on this one. I would be full-blown supporting the MCU direction. But I would also support a start from scratch, buddy. Just start all over. Because at this point, we're just rinsing and repeating. And eventually, I'm going to say this right now, eventually we're going to have the same problem that we're having with DC. Bullshit. And you're not going to see me too thrilled. That's just how I feel. So, sorry, Tevia. New 52 was better. Just being honest. And it is what it is. But, we'll see how things go. I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be saying, no, I don't want to have an MCU direction, or I don't want to have this, or I don't want to have that. I'd love to see where it leads. I love to see this. Pure comedy, if it does happen. Pure comedy. Anyway, let's just, dude, I'm going to make fun of a lot of people. Just let you guys know. Because I'm like, hey, it's so terrible. I want to go back to the Marvel Comics era. Go back to the pre-Marvel MCU. Oh, man. Oh, man. It's just so funny. But anyway, later, guys. But please, tell me. Love to know.